We're live. We are happening. Let me just double check that. There we go. I just want to actually be able to see you. Well, hello. You are allowed to talk. You don't have to look like a zombie on the other end.
Oh, cool.
Although
Okay.
I am liking the hood look right now.
I see it now.
So
Sorry.
here's the thing, Nikhil. These are just casual conversations. It's a new year. So happy new year, by the way.
Happy New Year to you too, Kira Marie.
And I have to say thank you for being my tech support. New computer, new year. It did not want to set up. I had to log in and figure it all out, and you rescued me.
We do that. That's it. That's what we do.
Yeah, I know. So just to really, I don't know. I feel like this year, it's a new year, new conversations, and I really feel strongly about a new approach to leadership, and particularly in building leadership, right? So the best way I know how to start going around that, creating some awareness around it, is actually just having conversations. And so I wanted to commit, as my theme for this year is really to start seeing humanity, and not just like seeing it as another stat, seeing it as another thing we've got to do, but really see humanity. And I figured the best way to do that and to start shifting it closer to where I'd love it to be is by having a different conversation. So this is what this is about, is like, hey, can we just have a conversation? Are you good for it?
I'm up for it. Let's do it.
And I don't know about you. Have you just got up not long ago? I went and did a workout. Not the best workout this morning. So there's something in the air today, but it was a workout.
I'm in my gear, ready to go for my morning run.
Oh, don't do the strip down. This is like not R-rated. Yeah.
So I'm ready to go for a bit of a morning run, actually.
Awesome.
We said we're going to have this conversation. I said, all right, let's have this chat, and then what better way to go?
Yeah, no, I love that. And I know you've been doing the 75 hard challenge, which I just completed. But then something happened. Tell me, what was that?
I've had this happen a few times. So 75 hard challenge, I haven't been able to complete in one hit. I was on day 42. And I went
huge. Yeah. So well done to get to day 42. That's
thank you. Yeah, I got to day 42, and I took my daughter out for breakfast, and I had the whole beautiful breakfast, and then I unconsciously ordered my favorite coffee, which is a vanilla latte in almond milk, right?
Nice.
And I like it because it's like drinking like a hot ice cream. I can describe it. And it's just
a hot ice cream. Sorry, I'm just visualizing that right now. Hot ice cream. Okay, that's kind of two extremes right there.
Right, exactly. It is, and you can just imagine the hot taste of vanilla just kind of in your mouth, and it's just amazing. I loved it. Right, so I know usually ask for a vanilla latte. I never ask about ensuring whether it's sugar free or anything like that, because obviously I'm not going with sugar as part of the 75 hard. And I know they have a sugar-free option, and something within me didn't tick to ask for that. And so I had to go back and check. And it comes down to a matter of integrity here, because, here's the thing. If you fail and you do one thing wrong, you miss something out, then you've got to start again. And the only person who's ever going to know is you.
Yes.
And I could have said, oh,
so true.
This, I could forget about this. I could not do this,
It's one little thing. No one's going to notice.
No one's going to know.
Done it so hard. Got it sorted.
And that's literally all it's been. It's like something that small was basically, I breached the rules of 75 hard. And I didn't realize it until after the fact. And it must have been like a couple of hours after. And I said, oh, I didn't check whether that vanilla syrup had sugar or was sugar-free. So I went back to the cafe to check. And they said, oh, no, we don't have sugar-free. So I'm like, oh, fuck. So January 1, I started 75 hard again. And it must be like my 5th or 6th attempt, I think.
Yeah. Amazing. But here's the thing, like, that I find interesting from those things. Like, I don't know about everyone else. Everyone's like, well, have you lost weight? Have you done all this? But to me, that's a beautiful little learning, right? that it's easy in leadership for us to ignore those little things, to go, no one saw that piece. No one, I've done all the hard work. They've seen it all. Oh, I've got to keep going no matter what. I'm letting everyone else down if I start again. And it's really, I find that interesting. How would you take that into leadership, just that concept? Because that's what I did. When I did the challenge, it was like, what are the things that I'm learning as me personally? And that stretched me. And then how do I put that in place, whether it's in leadership, whether it's in business, whatever it is, right?
Yeah, totally. I think there's persistence in doing whatever it takes, but there's also being true to yourself in the process. Like, I think a leader is a leader because the very first thing is that they have values that they believe in, no matter what the world thinks. And they step into those values and they live their life from that. And that's what makes them a leader, because no one's really willing to step into that authenticity. And if you're willing to do it, then that's what puts you on that first step towards leadership, right? It comes down to authentic and real leadership. It's raw. It's not pleasant. It's gritty. It's grimy. It's dirty. It's hands down. It's rolling sleeves up.
Well, we saw that today, right? We saw that today. It was like we were meant to be on here at 7:30 Sydney time, and we've only just jumped on now because I couldn't get it happening my end on my computer for streaming it out, and I really wanted to make sure that we could do it on this. And often we give up before we even complete it. And sometimes, I don't know about you, but before a challenge, I always find, or before something, is about literally to get to that sort of that gold. I find there's this massive challenge that can often come across my pathway. And if I had stopped every time some challenge came along my way, I would never be where I am right now. I don't know. Has that been true for you, or is that just me?
You know what, with doing the 75 hard, I've just discovered that how much of that is true. Especially, I was just looking back on, I think the failures in life. And I'm a strong believer. There's no failure. There's only feedback, right? But when you talk about,
sorry, I just saw. See, this is all the learning thing that I'm doing. I just saw class having putting a comment into the leaders movement. So I was trying to see if we could see what that is. There we go. Two of my favorite people, Nikhil and Kiri Marie. There we go. Best wishes for 2021 to you both, and to you, class.
Yeah.
Awesome. Sorry, carry on. I'm gonna get class on here one time. I reckon it'll be good to have a conversation with him on here.
I think it'll be awesome. He's got so much to offer as well.
So, class, I'm coming for you for a conversation on here, one of these ones.
You can't get away from that, class,
That's right. And we know you're listening right now.
We know. We're watching you, watching us.
That's right. Wow, that was so
that was
2021.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, sorry. Yep, focus. Yeah.
I was looking at some of the other challenges in my life that I took on. Like martial arts was one of them, right?
Yep.
And I just look at the fact that I have done 4 or 5 different martial arts throughout my life, right? And I've never actually got to black belt on any of them, but it hasn't stopped me from picking up a martial art and keep going. And right now, like, I'm on the precipice of getting my black belt. Like, literally this year, I got an email from
what a legend,
my instructor, and he's saying, we're candidating you for black belt. Here's what's your requirements. Like, you're one of the 6 people that's going to go for black belt this year. And I'm like, wow, I'm so close. But, and the journey through that, I had, massive personal issues, which stopped me for 6 months. I had, a health issue, which stopped me from attending. I had, COVID hit, and we had, social distancing and isolation rules, which stopped us from doing it. But what does it tell me is that, even after having done 4 different martial arts, being this close to black belt, for me, it was a sense of, as I said, personal integrity that, hold on, no, I can't give up. I've got to keep going. These things are always going to stop you, Yes, maybe I didn't get it in one hit, but that doesn't give you permission to stop. That doesn't give you permission to quit. Those challenges are there to test your character, to test who you are as a person. And I know it sounds a little bit esoteric and fluffy and warm and cuddly, but strongly believe that, the
Yeah, I
obstacle.
totally thought when you said that it was warm and cuddly.
Yeah,
No, I did not.
but
I know, I think it's absolutely right. And I think what is interesting, and part of why I want to do these conversations, like I've said yesterday, was I really feel there's this need for a new approach to leadership. And I'm going to, I started putting the framework together of how to write a white paper on this, because I really seriously believe that there is this need. And you pressed on something with challenges. And for me, I see it as the global economic, social and environmental challenges actually creates a need or a space for now a new approach to it. Would you say the same in what you're saying there, that the challenges now creates a space for something new, or what? How do you see that?
There's a phrase which comes to mind, and I can't for the life of me remember right now who quoted it, but the obstacle is the path, right? Basically, the challenge presents the opportunity. And wherever there is a challenge, there is an opportunity to meet that. And we can do one of two things. We can look at the challenge and cower away and shy away from it, or we can step up and keep stepping up and keep stepping up. And yes, we're going to be facing more and more obstacles, but every single one of those obstacles presents a path, presents an opportunity. That's where I 100% agree with you, that every time that there is a challenge, there is a need to step up. There is an opportunity that's presented. Otherwise, they're not really challenges, are they?
So here's it, and I love this. Here's an interesting thing about that, though, is this is easy when it's smaller challenges, or is it easy? I mean, you've struggled to you've got to keep going back into even starting the 75 again and again and again, right? Is it the fifth time?
Fifth time,
is that right?
Yeah.
So, which is okay and fine. And I just think I love the resilience you have around that. Like, to me, that's just such a great skill to have, and to keep going even when you don't get it immediately. And I think in leadership, that is so important, particularly as we continue to find what that new approach is. But here's the thing around that, like, the challenges across the globe, if I go right to the extreme of global economic, environmental, social, they are huge things. So if it takes that much to do a little change into your world and what you're doing, how can we even think of what's happening across the globe?
I don't see it as any different.
Yeah.
I don't see it as any different, because how you do one thing, commonly says how you do everything, right? And if we're just going to quit in the little things, we're not even going to get started on the big things, right? So that's one frame I want to bring to this, is that you're always going to face challenges, you're always going to face obstacles. And look, hats off to someone like you, Kira Marie, who completed 75 hard in one hit. But I'm sure there's going to be other challenges that.
But I'm a psycho chick like that, right? Like, and you've got to think of it in, like, to me, that makes total sense, because I'm that kind of person. Like, that's how I hit everything. I'm a results orientated person. If I make a decision, like, I might take a few moments to go, is this a right thing to partner up with and move forward in? But as soon as you've got me committed to that, I'm sold out 100% for it. I do that in everything I do in life.
Yeah. And that's it, right? So you've got two very different styles over here. One which is hardcore, go from the beginning, and another one which is never say die. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you've got two very approaches, and I think that's where
the outcome's the same, but the way in which we do it is very different. And here's the other thing about it. So the outcome's the same, which is interesting. And then the other side of it is the speed, though, can be different depending what your scale is. Talk about that bit.
I think that, so when it comes down to speed, a lot of it's got to do with the approach to the challenge, right? It's the way you're looking at the challenge. So for me, 75 hard was actually, I looked at it and think, oh my gosh, like, how am I going to drink 4 liters of water a day, right?
Right. How did you enjoy going for your bio breaks in between everything? Oh my goodness.
That was driving me nuts.
Me too. Yep, I've got mine right here.
I felt like a racehorse, just running around all the time to go to the bathroom. But yeah, look, there's two types of speed we're looking at. There's the speed of implementation, and the speed of result. And I think there's things that I would do in one hit which are no problem for me, but there's things like this, which present a clear challenge to me, which is actually testing that mental fortitude that I need. But it's also developing within me the commitment. So I love that. One of the lessons I learned from martial arts is how you train in the dojang or how you train in your dojo
Mm,
is reflect how hard you'll get those results in real life. So I see this as training ground for real life. Yeah. So 75
yeah.
hard it's not do or die. Like it's not
No.
life threatening, but as a result of doing it, and
And
as a
in
result,
fact, the only one that if you don't make it, that it affects is you.
yeah, it's you. Correct. Correct. But here's the side effect of 75 hard, right? I signed what, 5 clients. And I
Yeah,
had the
right.
resilience to keep going from it. Whereas previously I was so overwhelmed, I was like thinking, oh my God, how am I going to scale where I'm going to go? Yet within that 1 month, I signed five clients as a result of me thinking, never say die, keep going,
Yeah.
don't quit type
And so
thing.
then it did put, so, and this is something that I talk about a lot, and this, that the lenses in which we use.
Yeah.
And so your lens was do or don't, or what, how did you say it?
It's do or die, right?
Do or die.
Yeah.
So that was the lens you used in doing the 75-day challenge. Now
Yeah.
you're putting that into business and going do or die, right? Like, and so you got
Yeah.
5 clients because of it.
And it's the same thing, right? So how you do one thing is
So
how you do
lens
everything.
is really important, right?
Yeah. And if I look through that one lens on one thing, the point I'm making is that how you do
Yeah.
one thing is how you do everything. You're looking at that same lens through
Yeah.
everything. It's that resilience, that push forward, keep going, don't let it defeat you, you know?
So
That's
interesting.
kind of what it is. Yeah. And look, it's not just that, right? It's not just business. It's not just, and we were talking about leadership across the board. We're not talking my personal life, not just the business, but let's look at
Mm,
everywhere else as well. Like, with my daughter, like she's been going through a bit of a tumultuous time just recently, but I was able to
yeah.
step forward and I was able to be there for her. And now she's set herself at ease, knowing that there's someone there that she can look up to. And she started doing her own version of 75 hard as well, right? Which is really cool.
So here's the interesting thing. So you had a lens in which you were doing it, and
Yeah.
now this means or creates a space for someone else to have a lens of which how they do it. How do we take that into leadership?
But isn't that what leadership is? It's
Yeah,
really
I'd
you're
agree.
creating the
But
space.
I wanted to
Yeah.
hear that from you.
I tell you that's totally what I believe it is, because
Yeah.
when you create the lens and you create the momentum, you're creating the space and giving permission for other people to follow suit.
Yeah.
And that's how we solve those problems of economic, uh, you know,
But
austerity. That's how we solve, environmental crisis, is because when we
yeah.
lead, we're giving that permission for others to do the same.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. I'm just thinking out loud, really. And that was around the lens piece. And you said we give permission to other people. But here's the thing, like, doesn't that mean that, or how do we get to a space, maybe is the better question, where we don't have to give other people that permission. They can give it themselves because they're looking through that lens. And that's where I kind of would
Mm,
love to see this new approach of leadership get to, is that not only do we use different lenses, but you don't need to wait for me to ask you to have permission to get that lens to then go do this. Or
yeah.
these are, I keep talking about the old school leadership where it's sort of like you were told these were the 3 principles of how to do
Mm, mm,
leadership. How to be a leader, the best leader. The only way you can be a great leader is if you do these 3 things, right?
yeah.
So, and you shake your head, but that's so much of what leadership has been built on. You read any leadership book,
Yeah, I know. I know.
honestly, it is so what it is. So, how do we change something so ingrained in culture? Yet, we're talking right now where we know that there is a lens or lenses in which we can use that can be even more powerful.
Oh,
And
God.
we've
Mm,
given ourselves the permission. Others now see it and go, oh, that gives me permission to do it. But how do we get to a space where this becomes the norm? This is the way in
yeah.
which we do leadership, yeah. Anyway, I
I
love this conversation.
I think on this one, Kira Marie, and I love where you're going with this as well. I agree with you. Gandhi would say, "Be the change that you wish to see," and I think
Mm,
it's just exemplifying the whole point is that once you create that lens for yourself, it's not so much that you're giving permission to other people, but by them resonating with you, they're giving themselves permission. I think that's what it really comes down to. So while I
Right.
said you're giving permission, it's probably a better definition would be is that you're setting the stage. You're telling other people that it's okay for you to do it this way. There is no formulaic three-step approach to leadership, and it never
Correct.
should be. It should never be prescriptive, and it should never be. It's not a diagnostic. Like that's not what it is. Leadership isn't a diagnosis. You can't prescribe it.
Would you agree, though, it has been done that way? Or
Absolutely, and partially.
have you seen where it hasn't been done that way? Like, have you got examples?
So I come from
maybe even a touch of something different. I don't know.
Yeah. Look, I come from an activism background, right? So
I know that's why I'm asking the question.
So, yeah, in politics, especially in student politics, where we were so heavy, into the rights and into trying to do the right thing, I suppose is really where I'm going with this. We found that. Let me actually just backtrack. So in the university days, they always said that universities are the breeding ground for change and innovation, right? And that's no difference when it comes to student politics, because student politicians basically were, the politicians of the future. And so when I was involved with student politics, what didn't work was trying to get dressed in a suit and talk policy with people. No, it never works. You have to go back to grassroots. And I want to emphasize that it means going back to grassroots. What is it that's really happening? What is it that the people are demanding, right?
Yeah.
And can you represent?
Yeah.
And if you can't represent, find a cause you can represent, right? But go back to what is it that really people are demanding? What are they striving for? What are they yearning for? What are they pumping their fists in the air for, saying, we demand this, we want this?
Yes.
And in student politics, it was all about, we want representation, because at that time student unionism was being cracked down on. We want environmental change. That's a big one. Humanitarian change. And so you'd see student politicians from across the range and student activists getting involved in tying themselves to trees. Now, okay, yeah, that's still 1960s, but who in the real political world does that now? And I say real political world.
Yeah.
But imagine if that type of political activism took place. Look at what's that lovely young lady's name, Greta.
Oh, yes. I know who you're talking about. I'm terrible with names, but I love how you can do all these quotes. I never remember quotes.
So I think it's Greta Thurban or something like that. She's 17 or 16 right now, and she's up there, dressing down political leaders from the United Nations, saying, you guys messed up, and we're the ones that have to carry the cleanup operation. We look at Malala Yousafzai, fantastic example of education, right? We're seeing it everywhere.
Yes,
we are seeing it everywhere. And is this the most opportune time for us as leaders to be having this new style of leadership? Absolutely. I think the world's been demanding it, and it goes back to what I'm saying. The people have been demanding it. Love it or loathe it. Look what's happened. Look what happened with the election of Trump. You got either love him or loathe him.
You have to go there right now.
I have to, because it's topical. But people were sick of traditional politics. They wanted change. They didn't care how they got it. It's like we're sick of institutional politics. We need someone who's a man of the people.
Yeah, the systemic side of it, right?
It is, right? And the world's crying out for it right now, Kira Marie. They're demanding a new style of leadership.
So they are and they're not. And this is what I find really interesting. So it's almost like, when people go, I want to go for a swim, but I'm not quite sure if I want to. They dip their toe in and they muck around on the sidelines, waiting for that moment that it seems perfect to go for a swim. I feel like that a little bit with what's happening with leadership right now across the globe, that we know that we need to do things different. We know that there is a need for change.
Yeah.
Now we're not sure what that change looks like, and we're not sure whether I might wait for others to do it, and then I'll see if it's okay, or I might see if it works for them, and then I might change or do it differently. And I don't think that we've got time for that. I think that we need to pivot. We need to bring change, and we need to do it differently if we want. Like, sure, you can do it that way, but nothing's going to change. And I think, just think of the turn of the year, where this is the beginning of the year. So many people in the past have set resolutions, goals, whatever you want to call it for the new year.
Yeah.
By February, they have not done them. They give up and life doesn't change. How often then does that happen with anything that we're going to go? Like we go, okay, I'm going to change. Yes, we need to change. Yes, we see that this is not working this way. And we go to do it or we think about it. And yet every time we start putting our toes in the water, we bring them back out and we go back to the old way and things. And so by 21, at the end of the year, it will look the same for many people that it did in 2020, which a lot of people, I don't know about you, but there was a lot about 2020 I don't want to ever repeat.
Yeah. So I think I want to bring two analogies to kind of explain what I feel is going on, right?
Good.
So you spoke about the dipping the toe in the pool. So I want to take that analogy and just shift it a little bit and say, imagine you're going skydiving and
of course, you're going to do the better extreme. Yeah, I get you.
Well, I'm doing the extreme of skydiving because it's something that I relate to, and I think we had this discussion at one stage as well. It's like, you know, when you're about to jump off the plane and you're like, I want to jump on and get the thrill of life, but holy crap, I'm scared. And you're holding on, right? And you're holding on to the side of the plane, and all of a sudden the instructor at the back saying, for God's sake, and gives you the boot, and then you go out of the plane. Yeah. So I think that kind of boot is kind of necessary. Now that may come from a mentor, or it may come from other leaders doing it before you to show you that it's okay, or it may come from a leader just literally pushing you to get it done. And then you realize, oh my God, I'm free falling. But that's all we're all doing. We're all free falling, right? But I think that's where humanity might be stuck, is that we're stuck on that edge of the plane where we want to do it, but we're too scared. It's fear, because it's the unknown. We've never done this before. We don't have experience. We're scared. But once you jump, that adrenaline rush is what's going to keep you going, all right? But then the other side of it is that there's some people who are like popcorn. You cook popcorn, Kira Marie?
No, actually, because I don't know how do you do it without burning the pot. For some reason, I'll always burn the pot when I've done popcorn in the past.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, that's a discussion we're going to have.
So that just shows how good I am in the kitchen. Can we move along from that conversation?
No, I cook popcorn quite a lot because
I'm sure you do.
Snack, right? So let me tell you about what my experience of cooking popcorn is. You throw a bunch of kernels into the oil, you cover the lid, and then you wait a few minutes, and all of a sudden, one kernel pops. Yeah, that's your leader. Then another kernel pops, and another kernel pops, and then suddenly they all start popping at the same time. And then there's a few stragglers left behind, and they pop kind of in their own time. That's kind of reflective of humanity.
And there's even some that don't pop.
And there's some that don't pop, and that's always going to happen. That's always going to happen. And I think,
and in my case, there's burnt out people.
And then
what does that say?
And then there's the burnt pot. But I think humanity's in the same boat, right? They're going to pop at different periods. They're like popcorn. So there's those that are going to pop first because they feel the heat.
Yeah.
And then need to change and transform, because that's what it is. It's a crucible where we're all changing under the heat. And some people who are unable to, for some reason or another, unable to make that change and just don't pop at all. But everyone else will pop at different periods. And I think that's what we've got to embrace. It's not about saying, how can we get everyone to do it? We understand that everyone's going to do it in different paces. We've just got to set that scene. It's up to leaders to do that and just keep shining, keep doing what they're doing. And people will follow suit because they'll feel the heat at different periods. Everyone's different, just like every kernel of corn is different in an individual. Everyone else pops at different rates too. So
okay.
I think it's a mixture of giving the way, but also giving the push. I think it's a mixture of, kick the people out of the plane because they want to do it, but that's a permission-based thing. So they want to do it, then sometimes we have a responsibility and obligation to get them through that door.
Talk around the fear. What do you think about that? Like, I'm one of these people, and if we go back to what we originally talked about the 75-day challenge, one of the things, and like I'm doing phase 1 now. So as you've started again on the 75, I'm now on phase 1, and phase 1 is 75 plus. You've got to do these extra things. And one of them is a cold shower. I've never done a cold shower in my life. Mm-hmm. And I jumped out of the shower yesterday, and then Taki asked me, he said, so how was that? I said, well, I don't know. Like, I just did it because I'd made a decision that I'm doing phase 1. It's one of my things I've got to cross off the list for the day.
Yeah.
And I have no choice but to do that if I'm to do like what I've said, you know? And so for me, there was just no, like, there's no emotion to it necessarily. Like, I don't feel great that I did it. I don't feel terrible that I didn't do it. Like I did it. I just did it. And, you know, I know not everyone thinks or does things like that. I know that's kind of, I've learned that that's kind of just the way I do it. And so even with a new approach to leadership, for me, when there is fear, when there are things that stop other people from jumping forward, I go, I love the future. I love the uncertainty. I think there's so much fun in uncertainty. Like, I've actually learned to go, oh, if I can think and dream something new, then it's kind of like that adrenaline of jumping out of that plane.
Yeah.
I'm going to experience something new, and probably something that I haven't learned or done or been doing. And so that's going to take me to the new levels.
Yeah.
And so I do life like that. And I do, you know, when in leadership, that's kind of the way I am as a leader.
Yeah.
And it didn't come naturally to me. It wasn't something inbred in me. It was a decision I made many, many years ago. Like, how do you get, and I don't want to put that on other people, because I know everyone's different. Like, we've talked about how different you are to the way that I do things. And I want to take people along on that journey. But fear is a huge thing that I see a lot of people holding back on.
Yeah.
Getting stuck in, overwhelmed. Do you have ways, because you think so differently, do you have strategies or thoughts or insights around how you move through that fear or that uncertainty for you and your kind of way that you do things?
Yeah, totally. So I absolutely do. Absolutely do. Fear is. Well, I've got a couple of strategies that I can bring to this, and I think both of these would be really good. Firstly, I mean, we got to understand what fear is, right? Like, what it really comprises of, and we've got our instinctual primal fear, and it all comes down to survival, right? It's, are we going to survive? And if you look at the things that we're scared of, is it going to be physically going to hurt us? Then we've got a right to be fearful, right? And is it something that's not going to physically harm us or emotionally or mentally harm us? Then it's probably just a conditioned response, I think. And when you look at fear, how it actually kicks in, fear is retrospective. In the moment, if you're facing off with a lion, it's fight or flight. Fear doesn't kick in, adrenaline does. You're either going to bop that lion in the nose or you're going to run like buggery, right? That's really what it's going to come down to. Then what settles in after the effect is the fear. So fear is retrospective, right? But also fear is also directional. So the idea behind it is that fear is meant to guide the way, not block the way. So it goes back to what I said before, that the
Fear is meant to guide the way, not block the way. Is that you saying that, or is that somewhere you've got that from someone? I like that.
Yeah,
that's going to be your quote.
That's going to be my quote. Yeah. I'm happy to take that. I'm more than happy to be credited with that.
Guru Nikhil says.
Guru Nikhil Swami, yeah.
Yes. Can you just say it again, like in a really guru kind of way?
Fear is meant to guide the way, not block the way.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that.
I've got my long hair. I can do my long hair.
I know. No, that's great.
There you go.
Oh no, I liked it with the hood on. I thought that made it just that little bit.
Makes me more Jedi Knight looking.
Yeah. It did, yeah.
All right. So, young Padawans, fear is meant to guide the way, not block the way. Okay. And the reason I say that goes back to that point I made earlier. The obstacle is the path. Right.
Yeah.
And if you see fear as an obstacle, it's actually the path. If you're feeling fearful,
I just need to do a shout out. Hello, beautiful Echo. I know she's on here. And so make sure you're speaking clearly so she can see your lips. Because she watches lips.
Lips, yeah, okay, cool. Let me enunciate clearly for you. So if you look back to the obstacle being the path, if fear is blocking you, see it as fear is actually telling you you're on the right path, right?
Yeah.
So there's a couple of things, and in terms of strategies, I think there's very, very hands-on pragmatic strategies. The first one that you've got to identify is that I look at it from an intellectual point of view, that the neurochemicals that are associated with fear, dopamine and adrenaline, are the same neurochemicals that are associated with excitement.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. The only thing
Mm,
that shifts is the frame of thinking, is the way you perceive it. So if you
mm.
shift that into being, instead of saying, why is this scary for me? The questions to ask rather should be, why is this exciting for me? Then your whole approach to it changes. And that's one of the things that will help you overcome that
Yeah.
barrier.
So why is it scary for me? And the other side is,
Why is it exciting for me?
why is it exciting for me? Hmm.
I think that's one way to shift it. Okay. The other way that I use, and this is something that I wrote an article about a little while ago, maybe a couple of years ago. Um, it's that because especially, and it's not to say that people who are not intellectual don't feel fear, but people who are in their heads,
Yeah.
intellectual people, people who are thinkers, they
Yes.
feel it a lot more because they are stuck in their heads. And so
Yeah.
the answer for them is to get physical. All right, is
Yes.
to do something physical, because that what will do will get you out of your head and into your body. And Kira Marie, you are awesome at being in tune with your body, and
Yeah.
that for me is why I
Well, when
understand.
you just said that, I really, really connected with that. And I
Yeah.
also, it brought up something when I ended up in a wheelchair almost 12 years ago now. And I was in a wheelchair for a year and a half before getting out and able to even start thinking about rehabbing back to walking
Mm,
properly. And that was the thing that I felt the most challenged because my head was so busy that I've always, and I realized at that time in my life that the physical became so important.
yeah.
And I was unable to do the physical and I had no control of it.
You're in a situation where you had no control of it, right?
Yeah.
Most people who are kind of like in their head choose not to be in control of it, right?
Oh, good point.
And I
Yes.
think, I think that's part of the thing. I know, like, obviously, look, as I said, got a background in activism, so obviously strategy,
Mm.
policy, things like that. But also, I'm a very creative guy, so I was, I did languages and music all the way through school and through university and everything like that as well. But that type of person is very much in their head. They're very emotional, very stuck in their head. And here's what I found really, really helps when I'm blocked by something,
Yeah.
when I feel fearful about something. I put on my shoes and go out for a run, not a walk, a run.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I can feel my breath, I can feel my heart beating, I can feel my body working. And by doing
Mm.
that, I'm actually forced to get out of my head and stop thinking, oh my
Yes.
God, I hate this. You're forced just to run. Like you just said, you just do it. And because you're so good at it, for you, you can just do it straight away. For me, I haven't popped the same way you have. And so I'm still probably in that popping phase where I'm still conditioning myself to do it. But I've realized that once I get physical, those barriers take a completely different perspective. Completely different.
So here's the thing, I got so good at it because if I
Yeah,
didn't get good at it, I was that kid that wanted to jump off that cliff.
right.
I was that teenager, right? That wanted to jump off the cliff. Just getting it real here. Like, this is real conversation.
Yeah.
I was the one that wanted to commit suicide because I felt so intense with what was going on inside of my head. And I didn't have those strategies. I didn't have those pieces in place
Mm,
where I could do it differently. I
yeah.
didn't. Now I've done it because I made a decision at one point that if I was to continue this way, I wouldn't be alive. And
Yeah.
there was so much truth in that. I don't say that lightly at all. Like, at all, right?
Yeah.
I've got the scars, the wounds, the track record of how it would have been very different if I hadn't started to make this journey of doing it differently.
Mm.
So, in that case, it's funny hearing you say, but you do that and you're the one that popped. And that's because in
The
so
healing
much of my
thing.
life,
Yeah.
I've had to do that personally. Then I realized, why would I muck around and not do
Yeah.
this professionally as well?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just that the way you reacted to the heat was different to somebody else, right? Like
Yeah,
the heat was intense for you, you popped, right?
correct.
I'm
And
not
it
saying
was
like,
either intense that I was
yeah,
going to not make it through another day,
correct.
or it was intense, how do I live through this, not just survive but thrive.
Right.
And then it was like, well, hey, not only did I thrive through this, how do I take others on this journey to make sure that they can do the same thing? And that kind of has been the overflow of it all.
And so this is where the new style of leadership, the new
Yeah.
form of leadership really steps in. And Yeah, I think, that brings the wheel full circle when you think about it, is that this is
Yeah.
what people who want to lead but don't lead, can't lead, scared to lead are facing. They've
But
got.
haven't we all been at that spot sometime in our life, whether it was that tricky time that I talked about, whether it's those moments where you've got to get back into that 75 hard, whether it's
Yeah,
the frustrations that you find in business, but then you were like, I got 5 extra clients last month kind of
yeah,
thing, So isn't that just all of us at
it's
some
everyone
stage?
on stage. Yeah, it
We
is.
all get to face that. We all have those challenges.
I agree. I agree. We all do. We all
Yeah.
do. And I think it's just, as I said, for a lot of people, they're stuck in, this is how it was, this is how it must be, as opposed to this is how it was. Oh, great! I've
Yeah.
got the opportunity to change that.
Yes.
And
So the
they just.
reason I say that is this, and it kind of was bizarre, and you were like, huh. But the reason I brought that up was because I think this then and this is, we're finishing up now, but like it sort of gets us to an even playing field.
Mm,
You know what I mean? Like, and I think with a new approach, it's often scary because it is new, it's uncertain, it's not clear what exactly that pathway is, and you're kind of talking, but you don't have all that backing up, but you kind of do. And what can that look like? And and I think, how good is this? We're all at that same playing field. We
yeah,
all have some challenges somewhere along the way, but what if you could be better prepared when you
yeah,
have those challenges? We all face those moments where we think, can we go on or not? Do we give up? Do we just say this has been too hard and go, this is just obviously not me?
yeah,
Or, on the other side of that is, well, what if it opens up options that we didn't even know existed before, right?
yeah,
Or we've all got those moments where this is like, this is really hard because I'm doing it this way and I've still got to do this, but I know I've got to try and do something differently. And
mm,
I've got to put that into my schedule, or I've got to put this into the new way I do it. And I'm not sure if it's the right way, and I might have to pivot a little bit along the way. And there's that fear around it, or there's the fact that this now is a possibility,
yeah, yeah,
or something was impossible and now it makes it possible. And I think this is the beautiful thing is we all get those moments. We
we
can
will.
all get that time where it's like we don't know what that exactly looks like. But I think if we can start moving towards something, and for in
Yeah,
this case, a new approach of leadership, not a telling approach, but one which we start using different lenses, then we can start shifting towards. And I think this conversation today is where it starts, where we create an awareness of what is it actually happening, what is facing leadership right now. And it's funny because, and I think we have to bring this up as we're finishing, but how are you a leader in your world? Because I think that part of this, having conversations every day this month, is around having anyone and everyone. Like, I've just come off a workout, you're about to go on a run,
yeah,
and we're just having a conversation. We just happen to press a button and go live at the same time, to bring others in on this conversation. And I think the thing is, everyone's going to be different who I bring on this. And I want that because I want different lenses in which we
yeah,
start looking at how do we shift this forward. And I think that's the exciting piece is
mm,
there is uncertainty, but that's why we've got to have these conversations. We've got to start unraveling pieces of it and then
yeah,
going, now that we've heard this, and I think this is important in every conversation when you have a new conversation, is from what you've heard today, Nikhil, what's
mm.
at least one thing that you're going to take from it, that you're going to put into place, or you're going to think how you're going to do it differently? What would you say from this conversation?
That is such a powerful question to ask. What's one thing that I'm going to take from it?
Yeah. Or how are you going to
um,
do it a little bit different? Or what are you going to, whatever that is. Again, it's not me putting it on you. I want to just give you a lens in which to think.
I think normalizing uncertainty is what I'm going to take from this.
Yeah.
And let me just explain that just a little bit more. We've been brought up, especially the last few generations, have been brought up in a world where security, certainty are the norms, where it's what's expected. Go out, grow up, get a job, get a mortgage, get married, have 2 kids. That certainty was there. But now all of a sudden, in the absence of that, we're faced kind of flailing. But that certainty, that uncertainty is where that new approach of leadership comes into play. And that's what people are fearing. But what they don't realize is that, again, is that fear is the guide, not the obstacle, right? It's the path, not the obstacle. So what we need to do is normalize uncertainty, right? Embrace it. And I think for me, just what's come out of that, and it's just a recommitment to myself, is saying, you know what? Go with the fear. Don't go against it. Don't run away from it. Normalize it. It's part of your life. It's your guide. So normalize uncertainty, I think, is the big takeaway for me.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, my big takeaway from our conversation is I got so many insights and so much that I'm going to actually go through this again and put it towards my towards the paper that I'm writing. So I'm going to take some of the nuggets that we've got in here. I think they've been great thoughts and insights. And I really want to dive deeper into some of those things, because I think what you've helped to have in this conversation was pull some of those things out that I know that I talk about all the time. But it was great to go down different levels. And so today I've really recognized again the power of these conversations, not just because they're powerful to have, and we might get something from them, but because from it we can then take that and then dive even deeper. And so my commitment from today's conversation is to go even deeper with some of the insights that we have come up with together on this conversation, and really dive into those further into the paper as well. So I'm really grateful for that, and for you coming on to have this conversation. So is there, firstly, I know we haven't even talked about this, but if anyone wants to learn more about what you do outside of being this guru, with your little quote that you said earlier, which was, again, what was it?
So fear is the guide.
No, you've got to say it properly.
Okay, hold on. Fear is the guide, not the obstacle. I think that's what I said.
Fear is the guide.
Yeah,
not the obstacle.
I think the crux of it is fear.
We'll find it out and we'll put it in there anyway. I'll have
to re-listen to
that
this
sounded
again.
good too, by the way, even if it wasn't. But yeah.
Yeah, I've got 2 quotes now. But yeah.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to connect with you, what do you do outside of having conversations with me before you go for a run?
Oh yeah. So what do I do? So look, my background is as a copywriter, and so most people know me as a copywriter, but I take it to a completely different level of copywriting, where we're looking at business growth and direct response marketing, which is basically approaching the sides of marketing which no one really wants to talk about, and how we use that in getting into the deep understanding of human connection, so that we're eliciting responses, getting results for people. From a human level, not just let's pitch some stuff out there, but let's actually really connect with people at the human level, and actually then give them things they need, as opposed to trying to flog them widgets. So that's what I do. I help businesses grow by.
I guess it's give them what they need and what you love to do as well. So
Absolutely,
it's a win-win then, right?
It's a win-win. Absolutely, yeah. So that's the vehicle is copywriting and direct response marketing, but this discussions and things that we're having right now is absolutely the crux of it.
Perfect. So how do they get hold of you?
Oh, look, they can follow me on Facebook. Obviously, you can just Facebook me up, and you can follow me on Instagram at Nikhil Rughani. Everyone's really into this new thing, Clubhouse. I've only just joined, so you can follow me at Nikhil Rughani in Clubhouse, or email me, Nikhil at shotofcopy.com. That's SHOT.
Yeah, so not shot of whiskey, it's a shot of copy, everybody.
Copy like copyright, not coffee, copy.
Oh, shot of coffee. Yeah. Oh, yeah, sorry, I got distracted. Shot of copy.
Copy.com.
I said copy, not coffee.
Oh, well, look, I like
coffee. That's why you're saying that.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to leave everyone with after our conversation?
What do I want to leave you with? Look, if there is I think the biggest thing to come out of the conversation today was one of our approaches on fear. And I just think, look, if you're stuck in fear, just get out of your head, go for a run, go for a swim, go for a cold shower even, but start feeling your body, all right? Don't think about fear, just feel it and then just do it, all right? Just get into your body. Fear is your guide.
There we go. And they were the great words from Nikhil. Hey, thanks for having a conversation. And I love the fact when before we got on, you go, oh, I'm kind of just, I'm not looking, my hair's not whatever, my clothes. And I was like, okay, don't worry, I'm coming straight from a workout. And I think this is what the new approach to leadership is, that sometimes we dress up, sometimes we're in our fitness gear, whatever it is. But the reality is we just need to turn up and be real, be raw, and be ready for the opportunities that can come our way if we are willing to step it up.
I love it. Real, raw, and ready is powerful.
Yeah. So maybe that's what this year is about. Real, raw, and ready.
Yeah.
So in
that,
So with those words, let's sign off, and I'll see you on the other side.
Adios.
Yes.